Hey everybody, so I got a little bit of a different video today. I had a specific topic that I wanted to talk about that I don't really have an avenue to talk about in my regular style of video, and you can probably guess what that is based off the title. I'm going to be asking the question and discussing that question being, is this the start of Sony's L-taking arc? Now I want to get a few clarifications out beforehand, because I know that's kind of an incendiary title, and I don't normally like to do stuff like that, but I figure that is ultimately what this video is about, is Sony about to start taking mad L's after about 10 years of taking nothing but W's, to use brainrot zoomer rhetoric. I'm not trying to be very alarmist or overly incendiary and say, oh my god, Sony is dying, or is Sony dying? Like, no. I don't think Sony's dying. Not only do I not think Sony is dying, I think they could actually fix any issues they're going through right now if they just course corrected a bit. The second clarification I wanted to bring forward is that I am not coming at this subject from the perspective of like a Nintendo fanboy. I'm not coming at it as an Xbox or Microsoft fanboy. I like Halo, that's about it. And I'm not coming at it from the perspective of like a PC master race guy. The closest thing I have to any brand loyalty, which I don't really have any brand loyalty because brand loyalty is stupid, but the closest I guess you could say is you could call me a PlayStation guy if you call me anything, because I've owned every PlayStation console except 5. But I own the PS1, 2, 3, 4. All my favorite franchises are either PlayStation exclusive or started out that way. But I really mainly wanted to talk about some recent developments with Sony that have me a little concerned that they may be at the start of a long string of pretty bad decisions. And I wanted to, first subject I want to talk about with the PlayStation L's is Spider-Man 2. Now, Spider-Man 2, we're going to start off a little bit light here, because Spider-Man 2 is not what I would describe as a failure. The game was successful. It sold pretty goddamn good, like 7 to 8 million copies, I think. That's units moved, basically. And the game got good reviews. It got nominated for Game of the Year. People seem to like it. So the reason I say that I think Sony's recent issues have started with Spider-Man 2 isn't because I think Spider-Man 2 failed, but they did mess up one big thing with Spider-Man 2, and that was the budget. Spider-Man 2 is, for a single-player story-based game, the budget was absolutely absurd. It was something like $250 to $300 million, I think, in that neighborhood. Very enormously high. And this is a problem because, typically speaking, the more money you pump into something, the less you can do with it, which seems kind of paradoxical, but when you're a publicly traded company that is ultimately answering to investors, those investors are going to want to make double, triple, or quadruple the money back that they put into a project. You're going to need to make like 450 mil back. That's what they're going to want you to make. Basically, even though the game sold a lot and was technically a financial success, it wasn't as much of a financial success as they wanted it to be. When you're spending $250 million on a video game, that really hampers your creative ability, because then you basically can't take risks, because now it's all or nothing, right? It's not like a game, like let's say if instead of spending $250 million on Spider-Man 2, they took that $250 million and they made like 3 or 4 smaller games, right? So if game A fails, a great example of this actually was the Capcom 5 from the early 2000s, right? Well, Killer 7 comes out, and Killer 7 is like really surreal, weird, art housey, like bizarre game, and predictably it does about as well as any other surreal or weird or art housey or avant-garde product does, and it's a financial flop. But it doesn't really matter, because the Resident Evil remake and Resident Evil 4 sold like fucking gangbusters, you know. And then at the same time, Capcom was also like Beautiful Joe sold pretty well, Devil May Cry was moving numbers, so it didn't really matter that Killer 7 didn't really perform super well. You see what I'm saying? Because they didn't put all their eggs in one basket. When you do what Sony's strategy is, Sony releases a game. Sony has one of their game studios come out with a game once every, like a big game, like once every 1 or 2 years, and it's $150 to $250 to $300 million. And if it flops, they're fucked. They just lost shitloads of money. But it's starting to bite them in the ass, because they're spending so much money on these things that now It's getting to the point where it doesn't matter how much it's fucking making. They're still gonna have to cut people. They're still gonna have to lay people off. And unless shit goes exactly perfectly how they want it, they're gonna run at a loss. The next thing I want to talk about is Sony's live service pivot, which happened under Jim Ryan. He greenlit, I think, something like, 12 live service games at Sony Studios. And under the justification that Sony didn't have live service games make fuckloads of money, and so Sony's got to get in on that. Well, the problem is live service games are probably harder to make than single-player games, because not only do you have to make the actual fucking product that goes to market, you have to continuously update it, which is not cheap and not easy. Everybody keeps hearing about live service success stories in the industry, stuff like Fortnite, stuff like Warzone, yada yada yada. Fortnite and Warzone are exceptions to the rule. For every Fortnite and Warzone, there's at least like a dozen other attempts at live service games that come out and are dead within like a couple of weeks. That's some foreshadowing right there. So they greenlit 12 live service games, couldn't make most of them, so they've canceled most of them. I think they canceled 6 of them, and now we're down to 6 live service games that they're banking on. The Last of Us multiplayer game that was in development hell for like 4 years was a good example of what I'm talking about. Also, it just kind of, I think, shows that Sony has pivoted from, 2014 was a pretty big PR win for Sony. Everybody was like, oh my god, they get it. They want to make good games. They want to make games that people enjoy, and they don't want to do the shit that Microsoft's doing, like always online or no used games or entertainment center. But now all of a sudden, Sony is doing shit that people don't like because people are starting to get really fucking over live service games. Skull and Bones flopped. Suicide Squad flopped. Another game that I'll talk about very shortly flopped, and even some of the big ones like Destiny are kind of starting to bleed players. Warzone is kind of starting to, or was kind of starting to bleed players. Battlefield has completely been unable to pivot to a live service model at like every step of the way. People aren't really super into live service shit anymore outside of like the games that they've already been playing for 10 years now, and sometimes not even then. So Sony really couldn't have picked a worse time to try and get into the live service market, especially when their prior reputation has been largely around making really high-quality single-player experiences, saying, we're going to abandon that to follow a trend that, in all honesty, seems to be dying, doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence in people. And especially for me personally, I fucking despise live service games. I despise live service games as a concept. I definitely despise games as a service as a term. So maybe I'm a little biased there, but about the time I heard Jim Ryan come out and start using we're gonna do a live service pivot and start using terms like mindshare and stuff, I was like, oh my fucking god. That basically killed a lot of faith that I had in Sony right there. And I think it killed a lot of people's faith, but what really killed a lot of people's faith in Sony, especially regarding live service, has been the shadow looming over this video the whole time I've been talking so far, and that I'm sure everyone has mostly just been waiting for me to get to, and that is Concord. Everybody, Concord. Oh boy, what a colossal, catastrophic clusterfuck Concord was. So, Concord, I don't know the exact numbers, but Concord might be the biggest financial failure in video game history. Bigger than Daikatana, bigger financial flop than E.T., bigger than, I don't even fucking know what else there, Duke Nukem Forever, maybe. Concord was a pretty colossal failure on Sony's part. 8-year development cycle. What was the fucking budget again? Hang on, give me a second to look up what the budget was. Okay, so I just looked it up. Concord was apparently estimated to be made on a $100 million budget, which, for reference, the biggest, most expensive AAA games in the late 2000s, early 2010s were typically averaging at around $70 to $80 million in budget. So Concord was made on more money than like the biggest games of 10 years ago, and it has a fraction of the content, and not only that, but the fucking thing was dead in 2 weeks. It only sold something like 25,000 copies. I think the most charitable estimates are that it only made $1 million. $1 million on a $100 million budget is a loss of $99 million. That's not counting the budget that went into marketing, which, to be fair, probably wasn't a lot, because this game really did not have a lot of marketing. It's a pretty big fuck up, and it's hurt Sony's bottom line, especially because a lot of aspects of Sony as a company have been not, like TV and music and film have been not really doing super well for Sony for the past 10, 15 years. They've kind of put a majority of their effort and their monetary interest behind PlayStation as a brand and video games as an industry. So when their biggest game of the year that they poured 8 years and $100 million into comes out and makes like 1/100th of the fucking budget, you can bet your ass people are getting fucking fired. Investors are calling up XX and saying, hey, I want you to go on Forbes in the electronics and entertainment section, and I want you to read me the headline of the first fucking article you see, and I want you to tell me whether or not you think I should continue to give you money. People are most certainly going to get laid off. There's no way to fucking avoid it. They're going to... MBA types and suits are going to do every fucking thing they can to try and salvage whatever they can from this. Not only has it been a huge financial flop, I mean, this has been a disastrous PR blow to Sony, and just absolutely disastrous. I mean, Concord is like probably the most shat on game of the last 10 years. The only other game I can think of that's been shit on as much is Last of Us Part 2, but Last of Us Part 2 was contentious. There were a lot of people shitting on it and a lot of people who really enjoyed that game. Concord, nobody fucking, like, everybody's looking at it and being like, that looks fucking stupid. This looks like garbage, you know? Like, the most positive thing you're getting people saying about it is, oh, well, the gameplay is good. I don't want to fucking play it for more than like an hour, but I mean, I guess it's kind of sort of a little fun. Sony has previously been associated with quality, right? Last of Us, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, fucking Gran Turismo, Bloodborne, a lot of really high Uncharted, a lot of really high quality Returnal. I see I'm fucking like missing some. A lot of really high-quality games that people really enjoyed, and then they put out this, which is not only a game that people don't enjoy, it's a game that people don't enjoy to such an enormous degree that they ran at one of the biggest probably the biggest loss in video game history. Nobody really wants to play off-brand Overwatch. They just don't. People don't even... The fact that there's no disc drive just absolutely kills it for me personally. I was never gonna get it because I'm not gonna spend $700 on a fucking video game console, but especially one where I don't even really actually own the games. I pay for a license to play games until PSN gets shut down or my console bricks and then it's gone. Fuck that. Like, you're telling me to spend $700 to borrow games from you, essentially. Fuck that. That's stupid. There's no security in that. I'm not gonna do that. It's $700 for an IOU, basically, and that's just bizarre. All of the issues that I've talked about kind of sort of coalesce into this one central problem that I think Sony is starting to face and really come to grips with now, is they're spending too much money on video games. They're taking too long to make video games. They can't take as many risks when they're making video games, but ultimately we're kind of entering a period of the market where you need to take risks. You need to do something that stands out, because the fact of the matter is people are starting to get fucking bored. Scale it all down, smaller budgets, smaller teams, and like more specific visions, creative visions, basically, rather than one game needing to do everything for everyone, have several different games for several different niches. But they don't want to do that. It's all about trying to copy the blockbuster model that Hollywood's been doing for the past 20 years, which is killing Hollywood, by the way. Hollywood is like fucking bleeding money right now, so they even need to make a change too. But I don't know, and you know, it's about the executives ultimately. And it's also, I think, kind of indicative of a broader cultural shift at Sony. Sony is not a Japanese company anymore. Sony is a European company now. And European companies do things a lot different than Japanese companies. A lot of cultural differences, economic differences, that kind of thing. I'm not about to go like full bore, like, you know, Japan is better than the West or whatever, but they definitely value things that I think are conducive to putting out better end products, notably retaining employees and stuff like that, which here in Europe and North America, we just, like I said earlier, we just don't give a single fuck about it all, and that's coming to bite us in the ass, and it's bit Sony in the ass, and it's gonna continue to bite them in the ass, I think. Concord was a fucking failure. God knows what this means for the rest of their live service games. God knows what this means for the people that worked on Concord or at these studios, but like I can imagine they're all absolutely shit scared right now. And I mean, they were probably shit scared before because, like I said, Spider-Man 2, 7 to 8 million copies sold, and motherfuckers still got laid off. Like, so it's like, wow, I can be successful and it's not enough. What's happening with Sony? You know, they're kind of, I think, coming to grips with the fact that they're the model that got them big in the late 2000s and early, you know, the late 2000s isn't really feasible anymore. So yeah, that's the situation with Sony, at least as far as I can see from my perspective. I mean, obviously I'm not an insider, so I don't really know like the full scale of everything, but I don't know, you know, I mean, that's just what I think. The PS5 Pro announcement was really kind of the tipping point for me. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I don't normally like to tell people what to do with their money, but man, y'all, like, please don't fucking buy that. That is a fucking scam. Like, $700 for something with no games and no disc drive, that is a fucking scam. You're getting fleeced. What's that dude's name? The serial killer looking guy, Mark Kearney? Yeah, he's trying to sell you a fucking bridge or something that don't exist. Like, fuck that. Please don't buy that. But anyway, so yeah, that's it for this video. Just kind of a rant, me sort of talking about how I see things and a little bit about the broader industry trends. Probably should have structured it a little bit better, but like I said, this is my first video of this style. I'm basically reading off an index card and just kind of making a lot of stuff up on the spot. But I'm curious though, let me know what y'all think about Sony and their current trajectory, and maybe even the current trajectory of the industry as a whole. Make fun of Concord or whatever. Who's your favorite Concord character? I like the fucking weird animal lady who looks like a fucking Brooklyn art hoe. Yeah, that's who I would play. I don't fucking have any clue what in the hell her kid is or her character does, but space Brooklyn furry art hoe is just like such an insane pitch for a character. I love it. That's who I would play. Either that or the plant person whose gender is listed as undecided, which, oh boy, there's some jokes I can make about that, but I won't because, you know, I'm not honestly really that super concerned with culture war shit. Anyway, so yeah, that's basically this video. Like I said, let me know what you think. Tell me your favorite Concord character. Tell me your favorite employee that got laid off from Insomniac. Don't forget to do YouTube stuff that helps me out. Like the video or dislike it. Comment on the video. Tell me how much you liked it or hated it, or I don't know. Just say if you made it this far into the video. Comment. Comment my favorite Concord character is a Brooklyn art hoe. Yeah, and I'll know you made it this far into the video, and I'll give you nothing, but I'll like you, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, also, don't forget to click the bell. I got a Patreon if that's something you're interested in, or you can become a member here on YouTube. Neither of those things are absolutely required, and just clicking on the video and watching helps. Up to you, really. Quick shout out to the patrons over on Patreon: Spec Teams 1 Slingshots, Joe Sneaks, Zorio the Gazer Patron, and Lev, as well as the members here on YouTube: Saiga, Brigador 24, and Grungles. Really appreciate y'all. Appreciate everybody who watches this video, but appreciate y'all especially. And yeah, other than that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.